let's talk about Mod 5. Actually, before we talk about Mod 5, one of the things we started doing in the last round of Capstones is just some emotional check-ins. So, like, how y'all feeling right now going into Mod 5? Talk to me.
And I'm feeling like I can breathe. I feel like I've been drowning all program, and we have a little bit of freedom. We have more freedom, and then we're also benefiting from some extra time. So I'm feeling pretty good coming into this.
Awesome. Other feelings?
I feel finally ready for Capstones, and I'm excited to use this as my debut for my design side and get something that looks really good. That, and I also want to, afterwards, eventually publish this app that I'm making. So I'm really into it.
Very cool. What else? Other feelings?
I feel really excited, but I don't know what I'm excited about yet because I don't have an idea yet. But so yeah, that makes me nervous. So both excited and nervous.
Other feelings?
I'm exhausted. And also freaking out a little bit about the fact that I don't have an idea. But we have like an extra week, and so like to take a couple of days to really think about something that I want to be in my head about for 4 weeks is probably a good thing.
Nice. Other feelings?
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, this is like the reason I wanted to do a coding camp. So pretty excited to finally get there. Figuring out how to balance like everything, career services, the blogs, and working on the code for 3 or 4 weeks. I don't know, anxious about that, but otherwise excited.
Definitely. What else?
I don't know. I feel like throughout this program, I've become like more, I don't know, specific of like a programmer, if that makes sense. And so it's like, I'm less sweating the thing of like, oh, like I don't remember that thing, or like I don't remember that lesson, or I don't remember that thing. And like, that's good. Because it's like, oh, I'll just look it up. So yeah, I'm less stressed about like material, but I'm more stressed about like pacing myself and like getting too starry-eyed and like not coming up short, because that's happened a lot with me. So I just feel like I'm gonna have to mediate that.
Sure. Cool. One more. Anybody want to share?
I want to echo Jack's like sentiment and for me as well. I think I've set a lot of lofty goals, as you all know, with every one of my projects. And I think for this one, I would really like to work on planning and wireframing a lot more, and definitely like starting out a Trello board or like starting out like a GitHub project board to like really implement thin vertical slices and eventually like get this deployed, hopefully by the time Capstone comes around, so that I can present with someone using the app.
Cool. All right, let's talk about Capstones a little bit. So, screen share. So the broad requirements for this are it needs to have a front end and it needs to have a back end. Now, like, you can still make a game, you can still make a robot, you can still make whatever else you want, and it needs to have a front end and back end. And so go ahead.
So simply fetching from React and pulling an API, is that a full backend? Is that okay? Or
if it's your backend, yes.
Okay, so the data has to be yours. Okay.
Like something needs to be yours. Like the front end and back end don't need to be the cool part of your app. They just need to be there. So for example, like Ahmed's Capstone. Ahmed made a game. And then he made a front end and a back end for like high scores in his game or something like that. Those were not like the exciting part of his app. The exciting part of his app was the game. And you need to have a web front end and a web back end. Just the requirements. You need to have some new tech. It needs to be something that we didn't cover in the program. And the reason for this is if all you can apply for coming out of school is React and Rails jobs, you are going to find that there are not very many of those. So when you're applying to these PHP backends and .NET backends and Vue apps and Ember apps and all these kinds of things, they're going to go like, well, do you have any experience with this stuff? And you go, no, I don't, but I didn't have any experience with React Native before I started doing my Capstone, and look what I was able to do in 3 weeks. This is helping you answer that like eventual interview question. So it needs to be something new. Now, things that count for that, different language, different framework, like that counts. Also something that's like a pretty ambitious library, like doing data visualization, I would count that as like new tech. Something like Lodash, that's not new tech. Like if you answered that interview question with, oh no, I've never used PHP, but I've never used jQuery before either. People are like, okay, well that took you what, an hour to learn? Like that doesn't sufficiently impress anybody. Now, what people way more often do is go way too ambitious on the new tech. They go, I got a new front-end technology and a new back-end technology and a crazy new library, and it's a robot, and it's a game. And like, that doesn't work. Like, you'll just kill yourself trying to do something like that. So people who like successfully survive capstones, by and large, were people that were humble with their technology choices. As far as stuff that people have used in the past and liked, React Native is a popular choice. I'm always excited when I don't see 20 fucking React Native apps though, because it's also like impressive when I see like some diversity among y'all in the tech that you pick. Vue Crew is always pretty happy with their choice. Ember is hard as shit. So I'd go like pretty conservative with the rest of your choices, but Ember apps are mega impressive. Different backend technologies. So like anything with Python. I know a lot of you have been doing Node in the program. All that stuff's pretty good. If you do something like augmented reality, there is a library that's really popular for that has made everybody who's used it in Capstones completely fucking miserable. I'm spacing on the name of it right now. I'd recognize it if I saw it. But here, let me see if I can find it. React augmented reality framework. Vero. People have really not enjoyed using Vero. Although I will also say that every Vero capstone has been like S fucking tier, like coolest capstones. But yeah, I think pretty sure all those people want to like rip their hearts out through their esophaguses. So it's got to have those things. And I'll go ahead and say it's got to have some off. There's really nothing all that cool you can do if it doesn't have some off in it. That's where the personalization in your app comes from. Past that, as far as ideas, it should be something that you think is cool. It should be something you think is interesting. Stuff that ties into like your past life, so much the better. Like think about Brian Oilos from this last round, where he's like, I used to be an oil and gas guy, and I ran into all these kinds of problems, and I made this app to solve it. That's what completes your story arc. And like, I absolutely love capstones like that. Or it could just be like, I've been really into anime my whole life, and that's why I made anything like that that gives people some kind of sense of who you are. Those are cool capstones. And it comes like your passion for those things, like or your experience with them, your knowledge, like that stuff comes through in the presentations. So like, and also you're going to spend a lot of time with this idea. So it should be something that you can stand to work with for a few weeks. Now, your primary deliverable for Mod 5 is the presentation of your capstone. As such, we focus on the presentation a lot. We generally average about 6 required dry runs for capstones over the course of Mod 5, with some optional ones on top of that. So there's no set times on any of those, but in a 3-week capstone, it usually breaks down kind of like this. So your presentation is here, which means you want to be like not fucking around with your code anymore, like around here. So you're doing videos, you're doing readmes, you're doing deployment, you're doing that kind of stuff kind of in this in-between time. And that means we're working on like these last features sort of in here. We're starting to like make some decisions about what kind of stuff is going to make it into the app and what isn't around here. Maybe we're starting to get features showing up on the page around here. Usually want to see the first feature showing up around here, and I want to see your presentation roughed in about here. So if we're here today, like by Friday, I want to see your presentation. Kyle, how will I have my presentation ready? I barely have an idea for my app. So remember, presentation is your primary deliverable for Mod 5. You can make a slideshow. You've seen these slideshows in Capstones. They're not crazy. In fact, they follow a formula by and large. So in your presentations, you start with an introduction. And there's a particular introduction that I want you to do. And it's, hi, my name is Sydney Goldberg, and I'm a full stack engineer. I'm a front end engineer. I'm a Vue developer. I'm whatever you want to brand yourself as. But like, this is powerful. This is transformational. Saying out loud in front of God and everyone that you're an engineer, like you made it. So pick whatever title that you want to have, but that's how you're introducing yourself. And if you go back through Capstones, you'll hear it every single time. I want to hear your background. And so generally speaking, you do these backwards. So you go, hi, I'm Kyle Coberly, and I'm a full stack engineer. Before this, I was this. Before this, I was this. Before this, I was this. They're working backward. From who you are now, and then give me a sense of how you got there. So much the better if this segues into a problem statement. Every good app has some kind of problem statement in it. So to go back to Brian Oilos, is like, so when I was out on the oil fields, like I was keeping track of inventory, and the problem is pens don't work when it's cold outside, and it's really easy to like miss something, and then you have to go back and start all over again. That's a problem statement. Even if it was a game or something, is like, I love roguelikes. The problem with most roguelikes is that none of them incorporate my favorite elements of the Dungeons and Dragons universe, whatever. But it needs to have some kind of problem statement. And then you are introducing your solution. And that's why I made whatever the fuck. Then you're doing your demo, showing how you're solving the problem. Then you talk about the tech that you used. And then you talk about problems that you had with doing this. These are supposed to be brags. It was like, man, it was really rough picking up an entire new language and a new framework in 3 weeks. Luckily, I was able to call upon my background and whatever to overcome it. But they're supposed to be like humble braggy kind of things. And then you finish with a call to action. So this is a slide that's like, how can people use the app? How can people get in touch with you? That kind of stuff. You go back and watch over Capstones, you'll see this structure almost beat for beat, like 99% of them. So you've got that framework to work with. And what's important too is that this entire thing, you're targeting 3 minutes. Definitely no more than 5. This isn't school project presentations where you have to hit some deadline. If you can make your point in 45 seconds, get in, get out. We're trying to not waste people's time. We're trying to make people fucking enthused about your app. But most of the time, that ends up being about 3 minutes, which means with that and that and that and that and that and that and that, you're demoing your app for like a minute of this. And so one of the reasons we start with the presentation is people will come up with these badass features that you kind of can't demo. And so it never ends up making it to the presentation. And since that was deliverable, that's the thing people were seeing, what was the fucking point? And so what I want you to do like now is start working on what's that demo going to be. And then we spend the next 3 weeks trying to make that demo true. So this first presentation that you do, like on Friday, you're going to be motioning to a blank screen. But I want you to have an idea of what is the demo going to feel like? What are you showing? What story are you telling me in your demo? And it's probably going to be like a minute and a half maybe. And the rest of it, like you should also be able to figure out now as you're fleshing out your idea. You know who you are, you know who you used to be. If you have an idea, then like you can come up with a problem statement. If not, that's job number 1. And like these first rounds of presentations generally fucking suck. They're just not very good. And that's fine because it's why we do so many of these run throughs. We're trying to make your slides look better. We're trying to make your jokes funnier. We're trying to do all of these things to make you have those awesome cohesive presentations that you guys are used to seeing in Capstones. Cool. I'm going to pause there. Questions about this format, what we're doing, any of that kind of stuff.
So then would you be able to like mix in Vue with Rails backend essentially? Would that like count as a new technology?
Yep, absolutely.
Does Vue have a connection, like their own React Native version, or no?
No.
Okay.
You can do native mobile stuff with Vue, but you have to use the same wrappers that everybody uses for those, Sencha, PhoneGap, those kinds of things.
So if we're trying to build like a backend in Python and then a previous project in addition to that, is that okay?
What do you mean previous project?
Like if you were to take a project and you just wanted to develop it further essentially, and then add like a new technology as well to that, or did you want a completely new idea?
I'd recommend doing a completely new idea. If that's the best you got, there's no rule against it, but I've never seen somebody be glad that they did that.
Okay.
So I mentioned earlier that my big problem has been getting starry-eyed, and so I submit if I did Django and like React Native, would that be like a little bit too much if I pulled a TJ?
That's a lot.
Okay.
It's doable though. I'd say that's like square, like right in the middle of a lot, but not too much. People do that one all the time, but that's ambitious.
Okay.
Do we have opportunities to like, I guess, sit with instructors and like go over our plan and see kind of what would work and what wouldn't?
Some of that happens in these dry runs that we do. Part of that is figuring out, all right, what's feasible in your app? How are you going to pull that off? Can we simplify that? Like a lot of those conversations happen in these dry runs. And we don't have any like formal process for like proposals or anything like that. But like you can use tech questions for that. You can use your channel. You guys can be a great support to each other in this. Yeah, you have some options there, and you're going to get a lot of feedback about your app. Oh, that reminds me of another thing. As we're doing this, at least some of you are going to feel an instinct to run and hide. Don't do it. It hasn't worked yet. You guys need each other. So keep your channel lively, keep helping each other out, keep debugging with each other, be vulnerable, all the things that have like made you successful so far. Shocker, they're still going to make you successful in Capstones. And running and hiding is how you end up like really working yourself into a corner. Don't do it. Oh, related, these dry runs, you can ask anybody that's made it out the other side of Capstones reliably. They're like, oh my God, they're so good. Go to every single one of them. The people who don't want to go to every single one of these things, you go like, well, you know, it would just be wasting everybody's time because I really wouldn't have anything new to present. Like that is the wrong choice every single time. Don't be that person. No one has been right yet about like, oh no, I just didn't go because it was a stupid waste of time. So we will have zero patience for that as a broad attitude.
So start coding, like have something by like Monday. Is that?
Nope. Start your presentation.
Right. Okay.
You will be demoing your presentation on Friday, like in 2 days.
So we have that extra week.
Mhm.
How's that going to play in? Just more time for us?
I don't know. We won't have any dry runs that week. We really haven't talked about like schedule for the mod, but yeah, instructors really aren't going to be around that week. You can take that week off. That is an option. I understand that like most of you probably won't. But I've seen capstones of all kinds of different lengths. Shortest I've ever done is a week and a half. Longest I've ever done is probably about 4 weeks, 4.5 weeks or so. There's never any difference in like how much gets done like between those two things. And so I don't think that like the extra week is going to result in like just extra bangerang capstones. This historically has not.
So yeah, this is just going back to me, just like not getting starry-eyed. When, like, if you were doing this, when would be the best time to like stop learning the new technology and like start working on your project? Like,
I would not spend a ton of time learning a technology. Like you're going to learn it through working with it. If you want to spend a day or two going through tutorials and that kind of stuff, I think that's sound. But it is a bad move to spend a week learning a technology and then a week starting your app. Like that doesn't work either. Spend a day or two, see if you can get started, see if you can get a REST endpoint, see if you can get components showing up. But you should always be applying it to your app.
So if I've already used Node,
Mhm.
does that not count as a new technology?
That's fine. It's not a Node program.
Should I still add another new technology?
Like that's up to your appetite on it. I have never heard a student say like, man, I wish I'd added more new technologies. And I've heard like, I did too many new technologies a lot.
A little sketched out because I'm thinking I was initially going to do React Native, but now I'm kind of feeling like maybe I should try a different, either a different front end, like a framework for mobile, or I should do a different back end. Is that like a good instinct, or is that shooting me in the foot?
No, I think it's fine. If you wanted to do a Vue front end with a React back end, like, check this out. So this one is a React, or no, sorry, a Vue and a Node backend. Like, works just fine on mobile. And like, you can also make this a progressive web app or something like that, that is indistinguishable from a native app. We've had a few of those too.
So kind of going back to what I said, I was like a little nervous about with balancing everything.
Mhm.
I guess one, any like pointers or tips for like when to really focus more on career services versus the tech versus actual
So
blogs?
this is watering the garden. Great question. So if this is a day, you don't have, okay, so let's say you're awake 16 hours a day. You don't have 16 hours of like awesome problem solving work in you. You just fucking don't. So, and like if you try to pretend like you do, you're just more likely to wear yourself out. So every day you need to do some capstone work. I'd also recommend if you're like, getting tech jobs takes a long time. I've never gone through a process faster than 2 months personally. I've known people who have, but that's about the median. And that's like from the time you apply to them giving you an offer letter, like if it's lightning fast, it's like 2 months. So if you want to have like a pipeline of stuff when you graduate, you should probably spend some time applying. You should also probably spend probably a similar amount of time on like career services stuff. You should also probably spend some time doing like data structures and algorithms. Like you have all the curriculum for that deployed to you already. Any of those kinds of things. You probably spend a little bit of time researching. So every day, blogs, like all that stuff kind of fits in there. Most of it you should probably spend in your capstones. But if you get like 3 or 4 super focused like hours a day on your capstone, you're probably not going to top that. And if you spend half an hour to an hour on these things every day, you are going to be a rock star by the time you graduate. And you will have set yourself up for about what your post-graduation life should look like. You should also spend about this kind of proportion of time on these kinds of things after you graduate. Don't put off blogs to the end. If you don't have all of your blog posts in, they have to be done by like graduation day if you want the money back guarantee or whatever the thing is. And you are going to be exhausted. So you're like, okay, I'll just get through capstones. I'll knock them all out on Friday. No, you fucking won't. So if you do want to just crunch through them like today. Get that stuff knocked out so you're just not thinking about it anymore. If you can spread that out, then I'd probably put it in one of these buckets. If nobody's explained the watering the garden metaphor, you can't grow a garden one flower at a time. You spend a little bit of time every day watering everything. And so it is with capstones. And this is rest. Like, it's also not any time to let go of your sleep or your getting out and moving or eating right or any of those things. Like, you are handicapping yourself if you're not also taking care of yourself during this process. Make your own hard mode. Other questions about capstones?
So if we take that into account and focus on, because that's essentially what that looks like, is like it's half handling everything else and half capstone,
Yeah.
not including rest, because that's just kind of obviously going to be there.
Yeah.
So would it be would it be a good idea to stick with maybe the safer and more like thorough capstone over an experimental one?
I think it depends a little bit on what kind of work you want to do. If you want to do wacky creative tech stuff, like some of that should probably be represented in your capstone. If you want like a job where you're going to get lots of mentorship and like work in like stable technologies and stuff, your capstone should probably reflect that. And yeah, overall, I'm not in the business of telling people what to make, but again, never heard a student go like, "God, I wish I'd used more technologies." Other questions? So, next thing coming up for you is on Friday, probably in the afternoon. I want to see a presentation that kind of looks like this. Your demo doesn't need to have anything on the screen. You don't need to have a line of code written. Completely fine if you don't. But I need to know what your demo is going to look like. And so I want you to pretend like you're actually doing the demo. You're just pointing to a blank slide or something like that. Pretend like you're showing an app and talk me through what the story of you demoing these features are. That's you coming up with your feature list there. And if I hear any fucking excuses about why you didn't do this on Friday, you officially go on my like uh-oh list. So I don't want anybody on my uh-oh list on Friday. Also, just as a procedural thing, I do a lot of these capstone dry runs. I'm out next week. And so I've been training Ahmed on how to do these. So you guys get cool Ahmed, who's fucking better than me anyway. So you'll get Ahmed next week, and then we'll probably trade off a little bit for your last round. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
So then for this, you want this to be an actual PowerPoint that we're bringing to the table on Friday?
It could be PowerPoint. I really like slides.com. People have used Keynote. All of them are totally viable. Whatever you're comfortable with is probably better. Anything else?
Do you have any recommendations for tech if we wanted to do a mobile app, but not necessarily work with React Native? That's kind of relevant right now.
Yeah, I would make a PWA. So PWA is progressive web apps. That's a way to make a normal web app so that you can install it on your phone and it works offline and it has a little icon on your drawer, like all of that kind of stuff. And so if you want to learn more about progressive web apps, this is like a little self-serving, but my wife said I had super good TED Talk hands in this presentation. I gave a talk to TechCrunch Disrupt a few years back. 3 apps. Average user can suck on hybrid for the same reason that this is like a pretty solid overview on what PWAs are.
Can you send that to us?
Yeah. I'll give you the one with my slides and stuff too. Other questions about capstones? One last word of warning. I would say, like, when somebody has a really negative capstone experience, approximately 100% of the time, it's because they worked themselves up about it. And they just let the negative self-talk and the cycles and that kind of stuff just get them, paralyze them, so that like would have had enough time to get done all the stuff they wanted to get done, and then they spent 5 days like rocking back and forth in a corner. So if you find yourself doing that, reach out to a grown-up, reach out to each other. Like if you can get past that, you'll get through capstones just fine. Promise you. I've seen 750 of these at this point. Like you'll be just fine, but gotta stay chill. All right. Go and be merry. Cheers.
Thank you.